the hard work, to being committed to the process of on a daily basis, bringing it, trying to get better every single day, pushing yourself, pushing your teammates. And on a team level, I think it has to do with buying into what the coach is selling, because you have to understand what the coach wants and then try and implement that on the field, on the court, whatever have you. And then it's holding each other accountable. I think back to some of the teams that I've been on, and when we were successful, we held each other accountable. We had that family locker room. Everyone got along. Everyone hung out on the field, outside the locker room, things like that. And not being afraid to fail and having each other's backs was very important. So, all those things, I think, help build a successful career and also a successful team. But even then, you need a little bit of luck to go your way at some point. But I think if you have the right mindset day in and day out, you push yourself, you push your limits, you push your teammates, you're selfless, I think you're on the right track to being successful.
Real quick, I know, is the spotlight on me or is it on Omar? I just want to make sure.
It's on you.
It's on you.
Oh no, how do we change that?
You have to
On
click
you.
on him. You have to click on him and spotlight him, his screen.
All right, are we good?
Yep.
Okay, my fault, sorry. All right, now, so, all righty, let's get back to it. No, that's great. I think that's important. And then one thing that kind of sets you apart, with that answer is, I think at 6 years old, you decided that your goal was to become a professional soccer player. How did you keep yourself accountable at such a young age?
Yeah, it wasn't even to be a professional soccer player. It was to play in a World Cup. So I think those go hand in hand. In order to play in a World Cup, you have to be a professional soccer player. But I was lucky enough to go to a game in '94 when the World Cup was held in the U.S. and seeing the players live, seeing the environment, getting that feeling of it all. That's when I set my goal, and I don't know, there's just nothing that ever I let get in my way, whether it be injuries, whether it be tough circumstances or living far away from training. It didn't matter. And I was very lucky to have parents who were committed to me reaching my goals as well. They worked really hard. They drove me 45 minutes to an hour there and back from training. As a team, we only had training 2 or 3 times a week, but they would drive me every single day so I could train with the older guys, the younger guys, go to skill sessions, things like that. And I was always in the pursuit of getting better every single day. If there was something that I wasn't getting, I would always try and work on it. I would ask questions. I mean, these are the things that I still do now, even though I'm 30 plus years old but I have that same mindset that began when I was younger, and that was hard work and just always pushing to get better, striving to get better, loving the process of not really getting something and working on it until all of a sudden it just clicks and it becomes natural. And that's a beautiful thing. And I love doing it. And so, yeah, I set my goal then, and there's a lot of moving parts to get to where I am now, but those are some of the things that helped me accomplish it.
Did you ever have days where you got really hard and you're like, man, I don't know if this is gonna happen? Like, did you ever have those kind of days? And
I don't think I ever had the days where I said to myself, this might not happen. I had plenty of days where things weren't going my way and it was hard, or I lost a game, or every touch I took was bad and things like that. Or I remember growing up, you know, being 6'5", and I'd hit a growth spurt, and all of a sudden I was clumsy and I was tripping over myself, and you know, I was wondering like what is going on with me. But you know, you just got to keep pushing through it and just keep working, and all of a sudden you catch up to your size, and then you're back to your normal self, and then you notice that you got a little bit better in that process, because you had to focus that much more. So you know, I've dealt through injuries where I said to myself, will I ever be the same player? Will will this stop me from continuing my career? But you know, I only allowed myself a few moments to think that way, and then I snapped myself out of it, and I started to think to myself, well, let me commit to the little things right now to make sure this never happens again. Let me work on technique. Let me work on my stability. Let me work on my core, things like that, to make sure that I can stay healthy. And you know, you commit to those things, and soon you're out of the darkness into the light, and you're doing what you love again, and you keep moving forward.
It's awesome. So just, you know, kind of like now, right? You're finding different ways to get better. You did that all, you know, all in your career. That's awesome.
No, exactly. Right now, this crazy time, I'm thinking to myself, how can I, on a daily basis, work on little things to help me stay sharp, to make sure that when we are able to play again, I'm 2 or 3 steps ahead of the other guys who are just, I have no idea what they're doing in their homes, but I know I'm working hard. I know I'm lifting heavy. I'm working on my touches. I'm doing extra work, because I want to be a step ahead of the game when we are able to play again. So it's always having that kind of mindset.
That's awesome. We've got a lot of kids that have been following in your footsteps during this pandemic in our club. And it's just, I think hearing it from you is kind of reassuring for them. So this is great. Hearing that, you know, you talked about setbacks. What was one of your biggest obstacles mentally so far in your career?
I think I've had two really big. One was a physical setback, and the other one was a mental setback. My first setback was in 2012. Um, I wanted to go to Europe and give it a go to see how I would do, and I was on loan with this team in Nuremberg in the German league, the Bundesliga. And my first day of training, I fly over there. I sleep. I wake up the next day. It's my first training. I step on the field. 30 minutes go by. I'm feeling myself. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling confident. I say, hey, you know, I'm just as good as these guys. I think I'm going to do well. All of a sudden, the next play, I tear my ACL. And you know, when that happened, I try to say to myself, I'm going to be okay. I just got a knock on my knee. Nothing's wrong, but it ended up being an ACL. I flew back to California, had the surgery. And at that point, like I said earlier, it's when you think, you know, will I ever be the same player? I was about to go to Europe, you know, complete another dream of mine, take the next step in my career, and I'm injured. Will I ever get the opportunity again? You know, all these crazy things start going through your head. But then I realized I just had to focus on the next step, and that's my recovery, my rehab, and how can I make sure this injury doesn't happen again. So I hit the rehab hard, was doing 2-3 a days, going to see my physical therapist, you know, really learning and asking questions on how the body moves, what muscles need to be strong, you know, so that I can prevent this from happening again? So I asked questions. I was like a sponge. I learned about the body, just so I can take care of myself as well. And you know, that was just a little blip on the radar. That year in 2012, I came back in 5.5 months. The team wasn't doing so well. I helped them reach another MLS Cup, and we ended up winning. And plenty of stuff has happened since then. And the next setback for me mentally was in 2017, where we failed to qualify for the World Cup. And it wasn't just me that was the reason behind it, but I was involved in a play in the last game that we needed to win, where I scored an own goal. And so ultimately, you know, it's a long process. We did not qualify just because of that one play. There was other things involved throughout the whole process. But in my mind, on the day where we needed to win, where I needed to be the best I could be, I score an own goal. We failed to qualify for the World Cup, and all hell's broken loose. Everyone's asking questions. How could this happen? You know, it's the worst thing ever. And honestly, it took a really long time to get over it mentally, to build my confidence back. But again, I took the same approach. What I said to myself was, you know, I don't want this ever to happen again. How can I improve myself? How can I learn more about the game? How can I get better? After that happened, a week later, you know, I hired a company in Spain to look over my games and give me tactical analysis, and we go over film every week, and you know, because you know, just to help me get through it, and also I can keep on getting better, and if I ever get the opportunity again, I'm not going to let it go, and I'm going to attack it, you know? And so that was my mind frame. I think the depression or whatever it was stayed for a long time, but I stayed in my work, and I went in every day trying to get better, do those things, and until I was out of it and back to my normal self.
And you touched, you know, you talked about, I think I saw that interview, and you mentioned, you know, the goal that you scored against yourself. Did you have any good coaches that said, hey, you know, Omar, you know, I know you didn't, like, is there somebody, you know, good teammates? Like, what did your teammates and coaches say? Like, were they, you know, have your back, or how was that process?
Honestly, I think every player was in their own sorrow and dealing with it their own way. I mean, we were all devastated, to say the least. But yeah, I had coaches, you know, and teammates from years past, and friends and things like that give me encouragement and words of advice, things like that. But as a player, you know, it's hard to get those thoughts out of your head, and you take what they say and you try and believe it. But in the end, it's when everyone's gone and you're at home alone, it's you and your thoughts, and that's pretty hard to deal with. But I got through it for sure.
Yeah, that's and like you mentioned, you know, in 2012, you guys won the MLS Cup, and then again in 2014. So definitely bounced back after that ACL for sure. Then you have tons of accolades after. Do you prepare different mentally when it comes to a World Cup and a, let's just say, like a national team, or just a regular match?
I think in the past, I did prepare differently, but not because, but I don't really know how to explain this. I think I did it in the past just subconsciously, like hyping myself up more. It's a bigger stage, it's this and that. So I just put more pressure on myself. But now that I've grown, I learned a lot more, and I've learned that you've got to approach everything the same.
Yeah.
Everything it's just still the same game. It's the same amount of time. It's the same rules. It's, all things are the same. There's 11 guys on the field, or 22, 11 one side, 11 the other, and it's you against them. And I've learned that you just have to treat every training session as if it's sort of a game, so that when you're in that game situation, you're ready. And that's helped a lot with the pressure of everything, because if you attack every day with that kind of mindset and you work hard in training, I found that some games, it's not even as hard as training would be, because you're that prepared.
Yeah.
So I've learned that you just have to prepare every single day, no matter the game. If it's a championship game, if it's the first game of the season, you look at every single game as a championship game, and that will help with everything.
It's awesome. Again, your perspective, I think, just holds a lot of weight. I know we got a bunch of coaches in this chat. We talk about that all the time, but I think just getting our players to believe it, I think that's, you were able to figure that out on your own over time. But I think that, again, reassuring for our players, hearing it from,
It's not easy, and I have bad days, and I have days where I don't want to, it doesn't go well, or I don't have the energy, or things like that. And I have to, it's hard for me, because I'm hard on myself. But on those days where it doesn't go my way or something, I just have to remember to be kind to myself as well, and just say it's okay, but don't let one day turn into 2 bad days. Don't let 2 days turn into 3 bad days. Make sure you come in tomorrow and you're back at it again. So that's something to be said there.
And then how do you handle stress? How do you handle pressure? Do you have any advice for our younger athletes, since we're on the same topic?
Yeah. I think for, half of my career, I was very stressed out, very filled with anxiety, filled with all sorts of things, until I saw a sports psychologist there in LA, in Hermosa Beach, and he helped me with mindfulness training, and that was in 2015, I think. So not too long ago, after I had already won, MLS Cups and stuff like that. I was playing all that time with all this built up anxiety and pressure, and am I good enough, and all this sorts of crazy thoughts in my head. Even though I had accomplished stuff, I was still thinking those things, and putting a lot of pressure on myself. And it wasn't up until I worked with him and worked with mindfulness training and meditation, and where I was able to really control my thoughts. Mm-hmm. And being able to control your thoughts is key, because if you do have those thoughts, you can notice yourself having those thoughts, kind of nip it in the bud, calm yourself, and just keep on moving, and kind of noticing it without having emotion attached to it.
Yeah.
And so honestly, that's helped me tremendously with my focus, with just not wasting energy worrying about things that are out of my control, making up fights in my head with friends, with teammates that never even happened, things like that. It just helped me just live more carefree and more focused in my career.
Sports psych is a big push, and I think that's good. And the fact that you guys are making time for it at your level. What was the biggest change, when you won that first rookie of the, or when you won your rookie of the year, what was the biggest change in your life? Like, was that like, hey, you know what, I've made it, I'm here? Or, What can you tell us about that?
Honestly, nothing changed. I was happy to win the award, but I think 2 weeks later we ended up losing MLS Cup, and so you know I was happy to win that, and then we go to a championship game. We end up losing in my first year, and so that's more on my mind than what I accomplished personally, because as a team, we didn't win the cup, and so it doesn't change anything. If you let it get to your head, then you're gonna stop working hard. You think you've made it. It's just not good. So I think you have to take the award with humility and just keep pushing forward, because you can't just live in that, because that award really means nothing. Sure, they give it to you, and it's great, but what's next on the horizon? That's what you always got to keep thinking.
Then you began playing pro at the age of 21, 2009. Do you have any examples of a great teammate or someone who like really took you under your wing that, hey, maybe they really impacted how, who you are today and how you treat, you're considered a veteran on the national team, veteran at Toronto FC. Do you treat guys like that because of a certain player, or do you have examples?
Honestly, I was very lucky to get drafted to the Galaxy. The coach was Bruce Arena. He had coached in World Cups. He won at Virginia in college. He won everywhere he was. And he put together a very veteran-heavy roster. And so I was lucky to play with amazing, amazing, legendary players who played in World Cups. Some of my veteran players, who is Greg Berhalter, who's the coach of the national team right now, Eddie Lewis, Landon Donovan, David Beckham, Robbie Keane, so many other like veteran players. So I was really lucky to be a rookie in that locker room. I was able to just be a sponge, ask questions, and honestly, they were all really kind to me. They were hard on me. They challenged me. They helped me grow. But I think the main guy has to be Greg Berhalter, who's the head coach of the national team now, because we played the same position. He was 38 and I was 20. So he was about to retire, and he really took it upon himself to help me and to really set me straight, because I was a young guy coming out of college, wanted to have fun, this and that. And he still allowed me to do that, but was hard on me as well. Made sure that I worked hard and didn't think that because we had won a game, because I won rookie enough, that was good enough, that I still needed to push harder and harder and harder. So I'm really grateful that he was there at that time to help me grow.
That's awesome. And here's a fun question. You're 6'5". You're one of the tallest players to play professional soccer. I think you're in the top 3, top 4. Did you ever think about playing other sports? And the reason I ask is because you were at the dojo cross training, playing some volleyball, and I was playing with you guys, and I said, you know what? You put a little bit more time, I think you can make something out of this.
Yeah, no, I love playing other sports. I love playing volleyball. I have 2 older sisters, and I remember when I was young, my sister was in high school, and I would go to her like high school trainings, and I would jump in with the girls, and I'd play with them, and it was a lot of fun. And yeah, being tall, I played other sports, basketball. I was a kicker on the football team, tried a little bit of baseball, but the main love for me was soccer. So I stuck with that. But living in LA, living by the beach, played a lot of beach volleyball with my friends. And so, a lot of like ex-college players that went to USC, a lot of guys like that. So I was playing with some good players, and so I got to learn a little bit.
Yeah, that was a good time. Maybe we'll post some videos of you putting some balls away with those guys. Last question for me, and then we'll open up to Q&A. What comes to mind when you hear 2-0?
What comes to mind? What comes to mind when I hear 2-0 is being in Columbus, Ohio, uh, qualifying for the World Cup in 2013. Um, that was an incredible feeling to win, to beat Mexico again 2-0, and to qualify for the World Cup. To celebrate on the field, walking around, waving the flag with the fans. That was an incredible feeling. So.
And can you give a little bit insight? I know that that's kind of been a rivalry that's brewed between the U.S. and Mexico. I think you could do a much better job if you could explain that real quick so everyone gets understanding of why.
Yeah, so playing for the national team, you know, our neighbors to the south, Mexico, you know, they have a very good team as well, and we've had this rivalry, you know, for the longest of time, and we're always challenging each other and trying to beat each other. And in the past, you know, it used to be a lot harder. Guys used to get in fights, get red cards, and you know, that sort of built that rivalry even more. And you know, we play each other a lot, and every single time it's heated, it's fun. You never want to lose against Mexico. It's the biggest rivalry. I mean, there's just a lot that goes into it, and so you know, to be able to beat them 2-0 that day, and they beat us the last time, so you know, it goes back and forth.
Awesome. So that's it for me. Let's open up to Q&A. I know we got a lot of people in here. Why don't we go ahead, just raise your hands, you know, and then I'll call on you and you guys can go ahead and ask your question. Go ahead. Devin, Antoine Dillon.
How old were you when you found out you liked to play soccer?
I was, I think my mom just threw me in. I was 4 years old, you know, when I started, but you know, I just fell in love with it from a young age. And I don't know if you were on the call earlier, but you know, I set my dream to play in a World Cup when I was like 4 or 6 years old. So, you know, it was from a really young age where I just loved it.
Anybody else? Questions? Go ahead, Daniel.
Being at the level that you're at one of the top levels, most people think that you've probably learned it all. How do you still keep your learning process going at such a high level? Like, how do you keep learning?
Yeah. So right now, like I said, during this time, you know, I still work with that company in Spain who, you know, does tactical analysis and things like that. And I'm actually taking a course for defenders, which is my position. And so I'm just trying to learn more and trying to learn more about the coaching side of it so I can sort of get a different point of view to see what coaches are thinking and really get an understanding of the fundamentals that go into not only my position, but an outside back, which is who plays next to me. So we're connected, you know, I have to know what he's doing. And so I'm just really trying to learn and really get it in my mind so that, you know, when I'm on the field, whenever that is, hopefully I can be a step ahead mentally, thinking much faster, helping my teammates be in better positions, because for my position, I have to communicate a lot. And if I find that I can put people in positions before there's any danger, then we can put out fires before they even start. So, you know, that's one of the ways where I'm trying to, you know, keep the learning process going. And so I hope it's worth it.
Thank you.
Let's see. Carlos, Tito, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Omar. Big fan. As you can tell, American outlaw myself. Just really, again, supporting you. But one of the biggest things for me, again, we have a lot of young folks here, and specifically for Latinos, again, how would you grade or what would you think is as far as the U.S. Soccer Federation and their efforts really to recruit in the Latinx community and just bringing more young players into the MLS?
Yeah, I think it's difficult, you know, with in terms of the Latin community and getting them more involved in the national team or club soccer and things like that because um, it is expensive. You know, when I was growing up, it was expensive to play and you know, had it not been for a teammate of mine who paid my way, I wouldn't have played club soccer. I wouldn't have, you know, maybe gone the path that I did if it wasn't for a teammate to pay my way. So I think um, it needs to be more accessible, you know, to be able to play at a high level, good competition. And so I think that would help get more Latin players or get everyone involved. You know, if you have quality, you need to be able to be seen. You need to be able to get good games in, get good coaching in. I think all that stuff is important, and it starts at the youth level. And I think it just needs to be more available for all players. If you have a love for the game, if you want to be involved, there needs to be a way for you to be uh, in the game and also have a way to keep learning and getting better.
I see Tito's wearing his USA jersey too.
Yeah, there you go.
Uh, Liana, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. It's a pleasure to meet you, Omar. My husband and I have a question. We wanted to know if you think the MLS should have relegation and promotion, and how would you feel about that?
Well, I don't know if it should have it or not, but I played in Mexico where they had relegation, and so I know the feeling of every game meaning something, and you can't fall too low on the table for fear of going down to the second division, and so you know there is that much more pressure. And I know sometimes in MLS they say, you know, it doesn't matter, you know, what place you're in or how many games you lose or things like that. But you know, honestly, I think here in MLS we have a good competitive league, and I don't know. I don't really know how to. I haven't really put that much thought into the relegation thing because I honestly don't even think about it that much. You know, it isn't here, so why do I have to think about it? You know, that's honestly how I feel.
And then one last question. When you played, well, you probably still play. What was the best national team that you played for any of the World Cup games? Or which one was your favorite playing against?
I think the two that I played in, I think against Germany in the last group stage, because you know, we had to get a result to move on, and I didn't start in the first two games, and so I start against Germany, and we get the result we need to get out of the group of death. And then the next game against Belgium was unbelievable. It was a great Belgium team, and we were so close to, you know, to winning that game as well. And so I think both of those games were unbelievable experience for me personally.
Anybody else? Question? Show your screens. That way I can see the hands up. Oh, Andrew Boyle. Go for it.
All right. So I had a question. What makes you want to work or train on the days when you don't feel like working?
Yeah, that's tough because honestly, that happens. And so I think on the days where it's tough for me to get going or things like that, it's you know, it's not just about me. You know, if I go out there and I'm just walking around and I don't really put in a good effort, then you know, my teammates might not get a good training because of me. And so, you know, that sort of puts it in a different mindset for me than saying that it's not just about me. I have to go out there and give a good effort so that we all as a team can get the work in, you know, and so that helps. And you know, some days, even if you think that way, it's just still not going to happen. But I don't know. It's just, you just have to fight through it, I guess, and just really just find one little thing to get better at that day. You know, just because that's something that I do sometimes where, you know, if I don't really feel like it, I'll just say, all right, today I'm just going to work on this and make sure that I do this well. And so that sometimes helps as well.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Let me see. Hannah, do you have a question?
Yes. Hi, Omar.
How are you?
Good. So as a coach, I mean, I tell my players, you know, when you play in a match, it's not going to automatically click, you know, so I try to push them, you know, you want to practice like you're playing in a match because it's not going to come easy. And you know, my goal is to have the girls trust that they've done in practice because they've done it over and over and over again. So that when it comes in a match, it's almost like they're playing in practice. So just playing at the level you're at, you know, how did you kind of get your mind right, you know, when you're walking into practice? And, you know, did you have just one goal that you wanted to get better at, or how did you kind of think about it, you know, or was there a time where, you know, you had to learn how to do that? If that makes sense.
I think it's definitely a process. Trust me, I wasn't doing this my rookie year, or my second year, or my third year. It's something that I had to learn. You know, in the beginning, it was a lot of, you know, just, I don't know. There were good days, and I would say I was very inconsistent on my effort level when I was younger. But as time went on and I started working on it, and I wanted to be even better, and I knew that I had to work even harder to get to a higher level to take the next steps, then that's when I really started, you know, focusing on every day being a good day. You know, really focusing on me personally, like, you know, today I'm not going to lose a ball. If I do lose a ball, it has to be, you know, less than 5 or something. You know, I keep track of the balls that I lose. I keep track of the passes that I don't make. You know, translate it to like volleyball. I don't know, like you're not digging everything, or, you know, just try and really be accountable for how you play every single day. And recently, like in the past few years, as I'm heading to training, you know, I just sort of talk to myself and I say, all right, today I want to get better. Today, I want to do this. Today, I'm going to do this. Today, I'm not really feeling it, but I'm still going to give it a good effort. You know, I just spend more time mentally trying to put myself in the right mind frame. And so that helps a lot as well. And like you said, you know, if you train every day as if it were a match, and I said this earlier, like there's been times where during the game, I think, man, I'm cruising right now. Like training was harder than this because we work so hard. And so, those are some of the things that have helped me.
Thank you.
Henry, I think you had a question, right?
Yeah. Hey, Omar. So I'm sure during the duration of your career so far, you've experienced a lot of different coaching styles. So I'm wondering, have there been times where a coach's coaching style either didn't work for you or was difficult for you to connect with? And if so, can you talk about how you're able to adjust to that and maybe ways that you succeeded and ways that you failed?
You know, for the longest time in my career, I played for my first coach for 7 years. And then after that, my next coach, I played for him for 3 years. And then in the next 6 months after that, I had 5 different coaches, I think, or 4 different coaches. They were just getting fired and rehired. So I've had quite a few different coaches, but the one thing that I take away from all that is being able to adapt. You know, you're not going to have 2 coaches that are the same. So you need to ask yourself, what does the coach need from me? Right? Because it doesn't matter what, as a player, what you want, how you see the game, this and that. Because if you do that, you probably won't see the field. You won't see the court if you aren't doing what the coach wants you to do. So for me, it's how can you adapt? How can you really take in what the coach wants you to do and then apply it? Because if you don't do what the coach wants you to do, then you're not going to play. And so, you know, throughout my career, I try and take what the coach says, and if he gives me criticism, you know, I take it in and I say, how can I do this better? Or I ask him. You know, there's been times with coaches where I wasn't getting some playing time, and I had to approach the coach and say, what do you need to see from me so that I can have the opportunity to play? They tell me these things, and I go out there and I work on them, and I work on them, and I work on them until they see what they need to see, and I start getting playing time. So, you know, those are some of the things. But I think as a player, you have to be able to adapt to any situation. You can't be stuck in your own way. You have to be able to, you know, shift and be pliable. So that's key.
Anybody else? Questions? Yeah, go ahead. Go for it. Yeah, everyone.
Hey, hi Omar, big fan here. You know, especially during those years that you spent at Pachuca, great team. Question: how playing other sports, specifically volleyball, at younger age, help to become the great athlete you now are?
I think you know, just trying out different sports allows you to really get a, you know, good sense of what your body can do. You know, in soccer, you're not allowed to use your hands. In volleyball, you can use your hands, and, you know, hand-eye coordination, eye-foot coordination, and you got to be able to move your feet differently and get set, you know, in certain ways. You got to be able to get low and being able to shift side to side. So every sport involves different technique. And so I found that the more you're involved in different types of sports, you're going to get challenged in different ways. And, you know, I was pretty lucky where I was kind of good at everything, you know? So like, I felt like that helped a lot. And so it was that much more fun to be involved in different sports because it all was pretty easy, or not easy, but, you know, I could hang with a lot of the different sports. So that was fun.
Dave or Sarah?
Question is, how do you balance your love for the game and it also kind of being your job?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. How do I answer this? I mean, it just goes hand in hand, right? Like, the only time that this really played an issue was when I decided to leave my team to go to Mexico, because, you know, there was a money issue and things like that. And you know, I just had a kid, and I realized that, you know, I have to support my family. So I love the game. I could play wherever, but at that point in my career, I needed to go where there was more money, you know? So either way, I was still going to be doing what I love to do, but I was thinking more of the economics and, you know, how much I was going to be making and things like that. So, but I think on the other side of it is when we're in long stretches where it's exhausting and you're just kind of like, man, you just had 3 games in a row, and there's travel and this and that, and you're like, oh, man, can't believe this. We're in this, and it feels like a job, but then you just have to be grateful that you're doing what you love, and you realize that other people have real jobs. There's people at war. There's people working in the hospitals. There's people, on the front lines of, of what's going on right now. And I get to play a sport for a living. So keeping things in perspective really helps me just realize that I'm lucky to get to do what I do. I'm doing what I love, and that helps me keep the joy of doing it.
I like that a lot. Alex, I see Coach Alex, you got a Galaxy jersey, and you have a question.
Hey, Omar. Big fan. Thanks for your many years of service for the national team and Galaxy. Pretty much since you left, our defense has been Swiss cheese, so you're welcome back if you'd like to come. Question for you. Something through my younger years of playing, I didn't really realize how much work you had to do outside of your regular practice to be successful. Talking to your teammates through the years and your own experience, how much time, like in hours, were you putting in every week when you were in high school or college in extra work outside your practice?
Yeah, man. Earlier I spoke about, my parents driving me, everywhere, and I was doing extra trainings. I mean, that was it. Like, I was training outside of my house, a little bit getting touches. I would go to the older teams training sessions. I would, go to skill sessions. Basically every day of the week, I was trying to get touches in, trying to work on stuff, going all over the city to try and get games in. And, now in my career, I mean, it's all day that I'm working, because I got to take care of myself with what I'm eating. I got to, when I get home, I'm recovering, I put on my recovery boots. It's all day that I'm working on things, because I can't just relax. I can't just do this. If something's hurting on my body, I gotta work on it, because so I can be ready to go the next day, so I feel like we're always really working, because you have to take care of your body so much if you want to be able to be recovered the next day and be able to hit it the way you want to.
All right, we'll do a couple more if anybody's has. Go ahead, Leilani.
Hi, Omar. Thanks for being here. I have like 2 questions. The first one is, you talked about when you were younger and you set goals. When you were younger, how did you set those goals? Were they just at the top of your mind? Did you write them down? What did you do to set those goals, and how did you keep them top of mind?
I wish I could remember. I just think that was the only thing that was on my mind. I wish I could have like put more of my effort into more things, like my school and stuff like that, like, because my sport was the only thing that I really cared about. And so that's why I was just so focused on that. It's not like I was bad in sport or anything like that, but I definitely could have been better. I still got into college and things like that, but looking back, I think I could have been just better about splitting my time and still able to get to where I needed to get to, So yeah, but for me, it was just I wanted it so bad that it was always on my mind, and just soccer was on my mind, and training and things like that. So that was the easy part, just thinking about it.
Thank you. My next question is, you talked about training with the older guys, and getting ball touches. Did you ever like train with those who are maybe of the same lesser skills than you? And if you did, did that help you? So you train with many different types of players, but would you train with those of lesser skill?
I don't think I did. I think I always just went for like the older age groups and like, you know, because I kind of looked up to them. So I looked up to those players. I saw that, you know, they were doing things that I wasn't doing, and so I tried to get involved with those players so that I could be around them and learn from them. And so I felt like that's what I've always like migrated towards, like, you know, just being around those players. And so I think I was doing more of that.
Nice. So when you got onto wherever you were and you migrated towards those that were the best, or you tried to simulate whoever was the best wherever you were at the time practicing.
Right. Yeah. So I played for this club team, Dallas Texans, and they had different age groups. And so I was in 88, born in 88. And so, you know, I try and train with the 87s. The 86s were too old, but I'd sit there and I'd watch them train. So I wasn't allowed to train with them, but my coach was the coach of that team. So I would sit there and watch their trainings and on the weekends I'd go watch them play. And so things like that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Last question for me, Omar. You have dual citizenship. What made you choose playing for the U.S. versus playing for Mexico?
Yeah, well, that was a pretty easy choice for me. I grew up in the States, born in Dallas, Texas, and I played for the youth national teams for the U.S. And honestly, I was never approached by Mexico, so that made it even easier.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it from you know, everyone at our club. We definitely learned a lot, and just thank you for taking the time. I know you're 3 hours ahead in Toronto, and it's pretty late for you. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. You know, I had a great time when you allowed us to come train at the dojo, and hopefully I can come back next off season and maybe get to meet some of you guys in person. That would be fun. And so I hope you guys stay safe, and thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All righty. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.